Okay, I was going to show you now how to set up a WordPress installation in the Upcloud server box instance with the Vesta control panel. Before I keep going though, when I first did it really quickly. We're doing pretty much everything on the root access on the server. That's how we went in and installed the Vesta control panel. That's how we initialized the box and things like that. But really, the first thing you should do is create admin users in the Ubuntu server, and you should also set up SSH key pairs as well, so that adds some extra security for you. And basically you may or may not know what SSH key pairs are good for is obviously security. If you set them up, you pretty much make sure that only your machine can access the server, so remote attacks are less likely to occur, and also it's kind of more convenient for you because you don't have to enter in your password all the time. You can still have it two-factor authentication if you want it to be basically password and having the key pairs to make sure that A, they need to know the password, B, they need to be using exactly the same computer you're on, which basically really kind of cuts the threat down. But if you're happy to kind of use SSH key as just the one-step security measure, that's okay as well. It really depends on you how safe you feel on administering your server environment. So in this video, I'm just going to quickly add an admin user and assign them sudo permissions. I'm not going to go through the process of setting up the SSH key pairs in this video. I'm going to do it in a separate video because there's several ways of doing it, and it is sometimes a complicated process on getting it correctly, because if you do one step out of order or do one chmod on a folder or a file wrong, it doesn't really work so well. So that's going to be a separate kind of session there. So what I want to do is just clear this up. Oh, gotta have to remotely connect it again. It likes to drop out after a while, and that's a good thing. I mean, it makes sure that if you run away from your desk or something and no one can kind of hack into your instance, which is not what you want. So now we're into the root. So what I'm going to do is go add user and give it a username. Okay, so we set up a password. Got to do it twice just to confirm it. Okay, set a name up, and you don't really need to do this. This is just really kind of work kind of protocol stuff, which doesn't really make sense for some of us. If you are working in an organization, that does make sense. So that's now set up basically. If we went into su-that user, we can now access that user. But the one thing that we don't have is that that user doesn't have sudo commands registered them basically. So we need to get in there and make sure that they have access to do the sudo business, because that's kind of like, if they can't do that, they're very restricted. If they're not supposed to have sudo access, well, hey, don't give it to them. But I'm pretty sure that if you're setting up for yourself and you don't want to be the root user and everything, which you shouldn't be, you really shouldn't be accessing stuff as a root user unless you have to, because that's like the super user. You should really be having the root user account locked up and used on kind of only emergencies only. You want to do everything via an admin account that can kind of do sudo permissions. So we're just going to go user mod -ag, and we're going to give them sudo permissions and put the username in there. Sorry, that must be misspelt. User mod. Hang on. You know what? I got to get out of here and go into the root first. So we go in and go user mod -ag sudo, and then put in the user, and that should then give them sudo permissions. So then if I go su-coolwebs, I should then run sudo, and that'll give me kind of access to what I can sudo basically. If I want to go sudo apt get update, that's going to run that for me. So That should work. Yep. So that's how to apply sudo roles to the new admin account. So we can see that you can repeat the process many times to add several admin accounts, and that's how you would get that working. So now that we're in account, let's give that a shot, and let's go and install the latest WordPress package into a directory within the HTML folder. So what we can do is let's cd into HTML directory. Let's do a quick check, see what's in there. There's an index file in there. So what we're going to do is we're just going to find out the WordPress. So just a quick way of finding it. Can't remember the exact address off by heart, so we're just going to find out the widget. So let's go ahead and do that. So it's in this directory, which is good. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to do the wget command. I copied that before, sorry. So we're going to do the wget, so just paste it in there. Again, you're going to have to sudo lots of things. You can actually probably change this so you can automatically get sudo permissions, but I won't show you in this video. So that's going to download the package. It's pretty quick work of it. So if we go list LA, we can see that we've got the latest tarball in there. So what we need to do now is untar that file. And there's a pretty easy way to do that. Of course, you need to be familiar with the tar commands. So we're just going to tar dash x v for verbose zf, and then we're going to put in the name WordPress. Was it latest? And then we could rename the file here, but we're just going to do a simple uninstall. Actually, what I might do is just make sure I prefix it with sudo. It's probably for the best, really. Dash x vzf latest, and that does it pretty fast. Be amazed at that. So now we can see we've got a WordPress folder in there. So what we're going to do is we're just going to do a move command, and then we're going to call it wp test. Of course, we need to do a sudo on it. So check it out. We've got wp test as a folder now. Latest zip file. Okay. So you can see here, and you've got WP test in there. So we've got a WordPress installation ready to go, but we need to do something else. So what we need to do is we go into the control panel, and let's go into the databases. And we've got the admin default. So what we're going to do is we're just going to create a new database. So we're going to call it WP testing. Yep, something simple. It prefixes it with admin on all the databases here, and we're just going to place myself on it as well, and password here. Just going to make something simple here. One, two, three. So make your passwords a lot harder than that. Actually, I'm just making this because it's easy for me to remember in the next step. You can even send the login credentials to an email address, which is really cool and really handy. Again, a lot of the stuff that comes through from Vesta, since it's obviously not got an SSL on it, it might go to your junk mail folder. So do check that it doesn't end up there. If you change the rules on your email thing, it should come through to the main inbox and not get caught up in that again. So we click on add. So we've now added that. If we go into the databases, we can see it's there. So the next step is that we should be able to put that database information into a WordPress install. Should being the operative word. It's actually probably not going to happen because what we haven't done is give the Apache or the user permissions to write and read files on the server. So what you really should be doing is just going to sudo chown do it recursively, and then set them both to the Apache, the owner and permissions as well, by going www-data for both of them, and then just applying that to everything that gets created in the www folder. So everything that's basically in the HTML folder. So we go ahead and do that now, and then if I do that, you can see now the difference is that instead of being root, owner, and www-data reading it, we've now got both set to the same. So that should make it easier to run the WordPress installation, especially when it creates the WP config file. So we're going to go ahead and do that in this window here. Now you'll notice if I do refresh this, of course it's not going to work because we don't even have an SSL applied to that. So we're just going to remove that S from there, of course, and then just go press setup, because we've just obviously put those files into the server here, and we've just made sure we've changed the permissions and the ownership to the Apache server to run. So, you know, we can just go for the default English United States and go continue. So I'll need a database name, username, password, etc. So let's go. Now it's quite easy to get them from the panel here. So we'll just go in here, just edit here, get admin retesting there, and I think it even remembers it. No, it doesn't actually. I have to get the user from here. So admin Ryan Archer. So admin Ryan Archer. And remember the password that we set up before, very easy one that you really shouldn't do, but it's just easy to remember for me. So we hit submit, and there you go. So it's pretty quick and simple there. It says, all right, you made it. It's put that and basically create the WP config file. And from that, then it can just run the installation and create the data tables that it needs to do. And it's really fast at doing that. So to get this to work, you really must make sure that those file permissions are set to this over here. If they're any different, you're probably going to have problems. And certainly if root's the owner of the file, Apache won't be able to run it at all. So we hit run the installation. That's just going to go here and say Upcloud WP test. You know, you can name whatever you want. You can put the admin test. Make sure you don't just use the username admin. It's not really safe, even though when I say that, you know, the Vesta control panel uses the admin there. If there's a way to change that, I'll make a video about it later, but even that shouldn't be admin, because that's the first thing hackers try, is the admin user. Although fair enough saying that, you know, they need to know the password as well, but still it's just not that safe really using that. And of course there's a great strong password from WordPress. I'm just going to make something a bit more easier to remember to log in, even though it's not that safe as passwords go. So copy that in there. We put in a test here. It's an email. gmail.com, something like that, whatever your email is, and run the installation. Okay, simple as that. We go admin my test, log in. So we go admin my test, put that password that we just made before. Simple as that. We're logged in as the admin user, and if we go in there, we can see that it's downloaded and installed the default WordPress 2019 theme, and from there we can go ahead and configure the WordPress site and do what we need to. Obviously, this is you know, just a test run. You would set up a domain name and apply DNS settings and everything, and set up the website properly. But this is just to show you how easy it is to spin up WordPress on an Upcloud instance, and using the Vesta control panel to basically get your database happening and all that. So really, it's quite simple to do, very fast. Just as long as you've got the file system set up properly on the server. And that's it. That's how you create a WordPress site on the Upcloud instance. Quite simple. Like, I can't speak highly enough of the Vesta control panel. It's really easy to use, and also the Upcloud system, really simple to use too. I mean, I could compare it to maybe DigitalOcean's Droplets. There's certain pros and cons of both. So really, there's no excuse for you to get into managing your own cloud server systems. Thanks for your attention. Goodbye.